Hello everyone, Happy New Year to you, 2021. What a year it's going to be. I'm really excited for this year in boxing. Obviously after everything that went down 2020, I just think 2021 is going to be like the best year ever. I don't want to curse it, but I've got a really good feeling about this. And the way, I've been thinking about this, the way that the boxing community pulled together the last 6 months of 2020 deserves huge respect, because let's face it, I was getting really worried. I thought UFC, and I'm a fan of UFC by the way, but I thought the way they picked the ball up from March to June, they were smashing it with the ratings, and boxing was struggling, wasn't it? There was no meaningful fights. Fighters were like, no, I'm not fighting with no crowd and reduced pay. And I thought, oh my goodness. And boxing was struggling, and they was, such a fickle world and so much competition with sports that, if you go 3, 4, 5 months without doing anything, you're going to lose a huge audience. And that was starting to happen to boxing. And I was fearful because, it's my main sport. I love boxing. But credit, they really pulled it round. Listen, credit to Eddie Hearn. He got the ball rolling, I think. I know Bob Arum was the first to come back, but, they were really C-D level fighters. He was, promoting with all due respect, or, up and coming prospects. Hearn took the balls by the horn. Influenced a lot by UFC. Credit to Dana White, but he got Eddie Hearn his fight camp up and running, which was kind of his own take on obviously the island camp that UFC had been doing, and he got Dillian White on, didn't he? He got Katie Taylor, the likes of these, fighting with no crowd, but because they managed to get good fights pay-per-view, that really set the standard. And then you had people like Arum stepping it up with Terence Crawford, Lomachenko, Lopez, and then obviously Fox and Showtime have stepped up, getting Spence on against Garcia. So it is, and then obviously her getting Joshua on, and then Canelo, DAZN. So credit, they've all stepped up the big networks towards the end of the year, and that deserves massive credit. But anyway, getting back to 2021, I'm very excited. I believe by the summer, I think COVID, touch wood, will have a handle on it. I believe fans will come back in their drones. Maybe I'm being optimistic, but I reckon June, July time. I think that's when a realistic target, especially with the vaccines rolling out. Obviously, we're not in a good place right now, I accept that, but I think 6, 7 months down the line, I think we'll get crowds back. I really believe that. So positive times ahead and big fights ahead, which I cannot wait. Obviously, with the big one, Joshua Fury, which I believe will go down. Spence Crawford needs to happen as well. Will it? I'm not so convinced with that one. I don't think it's too much ego, unfortunately. And I really don't believe Spence wants it. I'll be totally honest with you. I don't think he wants any part of Crawford. Certainly not next year anyway. But, let's not keep going on about them two. We've covered them fights. The one I'm talking about right now is Logan Paul, Floyd Mayweather, and even Jake Paul, credit to him, has come out and said this is not good for boxing. The rules are still pretty unclear. Is it a exhibition? Is it a stand-up 12-rounder? Is it a 10-rounder? Is it 3-minute rounds? We don't know yet. We know it's going down in February 21st in Vegas. We know that. We know it's going to be pay-per-view. We know it's going to earn a shed load of money for the casuals and the YouTubers and the non-real boxing fans, because the boxing hardcores, they might watch the highlights or they might flick through, but not many boxing hardcores are going to pay for that, trust me. They'd go on YouTube and watch it the next day on the highlights, but you will get the teenage audience who follow Jake Paul. You will get, like I said, the YouTubers, and it's going to do big numbers. There's no question about that, but it's a joke fight. Mayweather can end it whenever he wants, even at 43. He'll just play with Logan Paul. And it's just going to be a one-sided beatdown. But, then again, he might do what he did with Conor, walk into the fight lines pit and deliberately make it competitive, which sounds crazy, but he could do if he allows himself to get hit. Mayweather can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants in this fight. It all depends if he's feeling vicious. It all depends if he likes Logan Paul, if he's under pressure from the network, whoever's going to air it. God knows who's going to do that. Fox Sports might do it, or DAZN might do it again, just because of the numbers it drove last time. Credit to Paul, KSI, they did huge numbers. So, DAZN might have some of that, because obviously they've got to make their money back. They've made huge investments and they want their money back. So I should imagine DAZN will pick it up, but they're going to have to pay a lot of money to get Mayweather. But they will probably make their money back on this. But it all depends, doesn't it? Does Mayweather want to end this early? I've got a feeling he's going to try. He'll probably will beat Logan Paul down. I think he'll toy with him for the first couple of rounds. He'll make it go at least 3-4 rounds, and then he'll just put a beat down. I don't think he likes the Logan Paul brothers. Logan Paul, I don't think he likes Jake Paul. I think he doesn't like the way Jake Paul KO'd his buddy and the basketball player in vicious style, and I think he wants to get some revenge on that. I do. I mean, there's strong rumours about that, and I think Mayweather will toy with Logan Paul for the first couple of rounds, and then he'll knock him out, I reckon, or about 4 or 5. So a joke fight shouldn't be happening. Quite dangerous, actually, for Jake Paul, even though he's going to earn a lot of money. Even though he's like, 6'2", and 200 pounds, so he outweighs Mayweather by about 60 pounds, and it's about, Mayweather's tiny, isn't he? 5'6", 5'7", so he's about 7 inches on him. It's skill. It's not power, it's skills. And Mayweather will just toy with him. So, yeah, joke fight. Too many of these are coming out, and it's coming on right now, and it worries me. Eddie Hearn had it spot on. Once a year novelty's fine. You know, it draws numbers, gets some interest, but when it's happening, you know what I mean, like once every month, then it's a worry, because this boxing suddenly turns into a circus. So that's something we've got to bear in mind. I don't want to see it, but hopefully this one goes down and there's not another one for at least 6 months. Ideally, it should be once a year, like I said. But moving on from that, Jake Paul spot on. This is a joke, and Logan Paul is in big trouble. End of. This will not be competitive. Anyway, moving on to Deontay Wilder. There's a lot of talk today. Where does he go? Because he's looking more and more likely, even though he's probably going to, I believe he's got his manager and attorney to file a lawsuit to try and push for this trilogy. It's too late. I think Aram's got him banged to rights. He had a certain deadline to reply to that trilogy fight, and he literally replied a week later. Coincidence? I'm not so sure. I don't think Deontay Wilder, heart of hearts, wants it, because he did. He would have replied before the deadline. I think it was early December, wasn't it? He would have been shouting out, before the beatdown in the rematch. You couldn't get Wilder off social media. Then he vanished, didn't he? I can understand, for a month or so, but then, you'd think if you really wanted it, he'd come back, post something, shout something. To wait till the deadline date had gone and Fury and Aram had cancelled and moved on, that smacks of, for me, cowardice. There's no other way of saying it. You know what I mean? He showed me he didn't really want the fight. But, apparently there's legal suits this, legal suits that. I don't think he's got a leg to stand on. I think Fury Wilder's going to go down, which means Wilder needs a new opponent. Now, who's he going to fight? I would love to see him fight Usyk. I've said this, but, if Usyk's going to fight for the vacant title against Parker, which looking more and more likely, or Joe Joyce, then I'd love to see Wilder step up against Michael Hunter. Brilliant fight. Cruiserweight, moving up to heavyweight, skills, got a draw of Povetkin. It would be a good test for Wilder, but a fight that he should win, but a good comeback fight, build his confidence. Hunter's a good boxer, much better boxer than Wilder, but doesn't carry any size or weight, and I think Wilder catches him and knocks him out, but I'm confident he'll get a good 6-7 rounds under his belt for that. Again, I think Parker, Usyk will be tied up. If Usyk, Joe Joyce, one of them three, it will certainly be Usyk versus. So again, Joseph Parker, if he doesn't fight Usyk, will be a great test for Wilder. And a good fight to come back on. Well, Joe Joyce would be an outstanding fight, wouldn't it? With that iron chin of his, he could easily put Wilder away, but then Wilder, could eventually clean Joe Joyce's clock. So they're 3 really good fights. Andy Ruiz Jr. is another name. He hasn't got a fight lined up, has he? That would be great. Or Helenius, who knocked out the up and rising coming Polish Kronacki, but I think they're tied into a rematch now. So Robert Helenius would have been a good fight. Hrgovic is still too green, I think. But, you know, these kind of fighters would be really good for Wilder. Even Jarrell Miller, when he comes back. But I think he's got another year ban, upon appeal. So, which is a shame, because that would have been a good little comeback fight for him as well. But I would like to see Wilder being competitive, fighting a top 10 opponent. And like I say, Joseph Parker, perfect. Andy Ruiz, great fight. Make these fights happen. But obviously time will tell. It's an exciting time for the division. But Wilder hasn't got long left, has he? He's 35, 36 soon. He's got to start making the moves. He's got to start rebuilding his career. He's got one more crack and he can't waste time. I'd like to see him have one kind of competitive fight and then get straight back on the saddle and challenge Fury or Joshua. You know, the winner of that, Wilder needs to be making noise, doesn't he? He needs to win his comeback fight, then he needs to be making noise for that, and I think he'd get it. But, you know, he's got to start making moves. Let's get it on Joseph Parker. Let's get on Joe Joyce, Andy Ruiz, or perfect opponent, Michael Hunter. They are the fight I'd love him to see, or Helenius. 5 great opponents. Wilder, get into gear, sort yourself out, come back. Like I say, make a few adjustments. He's already got rid of Breland. He needs to tighten up that defence. I'd love him to see him come back. He's an exciting fighter, but he's got to start moving now. Good comeback fight, competitive fight, and then push for the winner of Joshua and Fury. And if you're impressive in your comeback fight, you will get it. Let's get it on. Exciting times for 2021.